cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'm amazed.
What's up, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to yet another edition of WTCtv. Seems to be our fan favorite here is our monthly recap. And here we are again with Mr. Price Guide himself, Paul Anand. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Nice to see you, Tony, as always.
Always a pleasure to see you, sir. I know we chat almost on a daily basis, through text or something like that, but to see face to face is always cool.
Yeah, it's nice, and we get.
We're going to be covering.
Jump right in.
We're in the month of August, man, and what a busy, crazy month it's been.
Wow, yeah. Few things happened. Like July wasn't that busy a month, even though we did have the national. We said, well, expect things to happen in August, and notwithstanding the biggest wrestling card sale ever that happened just 2 days ago, that wasn't even on our agenda when we were planning for this month. So we've got a whole bunch of interesting things to talk about. What we'll do is we'll talk about what came out this month. We'll talk about what's coming out in September. Then we'll hit our top sales of the month, which will encapsulate some big numbers for Select, and obviously the biggest sale ever that happened a couple of days ago. We'll look at our index. We're going to get into some neat things. We're going to do a deep dive on the Select product, which people are saying is an absolute home run. Then we're going to talk about a rare rock card that you and I sort of discovered in Atlantic City. Well, I don't know how we discovered it. You kind of discovered it.
It was
just in a conversation, and then you said something, and the next thing you know, it's like, hey, how come the hobby doesn't know about this? And then we're going to talk about the Wrestling All-Stars uncut sheets that are going for auction. They are going to auction in September, not December. We'll talk about the history of those, and then a little bit about Andre the Giant, the man who keeps beating records. So anyways, August, what a month. Panini Select, home run, Tony?
Grand Slam.
Ever?
Yeah, I really think so.
I've got to say,
good buzz about it.
Yeah, from what I've been hearing, like Panini's had 3 releases now, and it seems like they've knocked them all out of the park. I mean, obviously Prism turned the hobby on its head. Revolution, a lot of people like just as much, and not more. And Select now, notwithstanding base cards, and we'll talk about that, has been a huge hit. It seems that loads of collectors have enjoyed Select. And again, we're going to talk about that in a little more detail as we sort of break into the parallels and all that stuff. But yeah, Select came out, and let's just say, boy, did it ever come out. Also in the month, we had some indie stuff. We had the ARW release, Pete Lynch's Atomic Revolutionary. And let me just say something about Pete. He's been very friendly to us in the wrestling card business. And we just want to let you independent guys know how much we appreciate it. Kim from Ignite, when they interact with us. And, when you're a wrestling card fan yourself and you're an independent promoter, it's just all the more exciting for Tony and I to get excited about it, to archive it, and to talk about it. So congratulations to Pete Lynch and his ARW set. And let me just say, that's one of the nicest. We've had this conversation, myself, Anthony, and you and I, Tony. It's one of the nicest looking indie sets we've seen in a while. There it is right there. Yeah, right to the border. Some great graphic work. So, yeah, it's the Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, Pete Lynch. Great job there.
Just so you know, next week, after this episode airs, the week after this episode, we will have a nice sit down with Mr. Pete Lynch.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that, where Pete can do the talking and I can do the listening. Also a release from the Seated Senton, another friend of the wrestling card community, autograph things, and his set it's coming out over time, so we're getting his in bits and pieces from what I understand. I haven't gotten any of the Senton stuff yet. I don't know if Chuck has yet, but as soon as Chuck gets his, it comes to me, and that whole thing. Then there was also the Crockett Promotions indie set that was put out at StarCast this year. That's really interesting. It's a throwback to the Wonderamas. It's got vintage pictures of people from the NWA days, and people like Shivani and the Rockers, and not the Rockers, Admit Express, those kinds of guys. So that was a fun set. There was another ICW. This was number 5 or 6 from the No Holds Barred series. They're the ones that are the landscape orientation. And they're smaller sets, but they're keeping those up fairly regularly. So a lot of stuff on the indies. And there was also another release from Leaf, the Leaf Metal Pop Century. Only 3 wrestlers in that set, Flair, Hogan, and Cena. But much like Select, this is another one of these parallels within your parallel. So they'll have their circular and their ways, but within the circular, they'll be blue and pink and green and every which color.
Yeah, like 90% of the checklist page is just describing all the different levels.
Exactly, exactly. When we start talking, about Select, we're going to be having the same conversation about the boatload of parallels and all the different configurations promotions and what's what, and trying to make sense of it. And, you know, if you're a PC collector or a rainbow maker, not easy
Not
when there's
easy.
this much stuff out there. So we'll start talking about that in a minute. Upcoming releases, as soon as the Select product came out, we got word that the NXT Panini release was coming. From what I understand, it should be here in the next week or so. So they're just cranking them right out. And we've always said,
I'm not entirely sure it's actually going to even come out on time, to be honest with you.
well, Panini's been pretty good. I don't think the Spectrum will make it. The Spectrum announced now September 30th, and I wouldn't be surprised if the AEW product, like AEW, they've only had the one, and Panini has had three in the same period of time, and they've all been these massive sets. And I think Panini is on to the next set after NXT. So they're going to want to get this NXT into the market because, as we said before, we don't know what's happening in 3 years or 5 years, whenever it is, when Fanatics and Tops come back. But it seems like Panini wants to crank out wrestling cards, and they're doing it, you know, notwithstanding the multitude of parallels, just the checklists, and we'll get into that in a second, 400 base cards and this kind of thing. So keep an eye out for that. AEW Spectrum, hopefully this month, and Panini NXT, which we do have a checklist for now. We expect that imminently, next week, we hope. So that's what's going on in new releases and stuff that's coming. So let's go to our top sales, and let's start this episode by talking about, and I'm going to let you do the talking because you're very familiar with this card, the new record holder. This man was a world champ back in the 80s, Hulk Hogan, and now once again he is the world champion in wrestling trading cards. For the longest time, him and Andre shared that honor. The 82 Wrestling All-Stars card was just under 48,000. Both of them sold for that. But I'm pleased to announce and again, that a 1982 Cosmos from Japan Hulk Hogan PSA 10 sold for $51,600. Once again, guys, if you haven't heard the news, $51,600. Now, that was a 10. Now, Tony, you had a 9.
Yeah.
And you sold it for a decent amount of money early this year, but man, couldn't we have gotten you that one grade higher? You know,
Yeah.
wouldn't have it been nice? You know, same for David Peck, he's got a 9. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just edge into that 10, because if you got a 10, you've got a $50,000 plus card. But I'll let you talk about the card itself because I don't have one, even just as a base. But tell us about that Cosmos card and what's so special about it.
Well, I mean, it's just 82 Japan, only available in vending machines. I mean, go to WTC website, check out the checklist on that one. Small 6-card set. I bought mine, the whole set. I bought probably early 2000, sometime 2001 in that era, some that time. I probably paid $30-$35,
Wow.
maybe $40 tops the entire set.
Yeah, and I missed it back then. For whatever reason, I didn't see it, or it didn't come across my radar, or maybe because it was Japanese, I ignored it. I don't know.
I would have. Normally, that's what I would have done, but it came across, your suggested or whatever it was back in the day. I bought it, and I didn't have it. I needed it for my collection, and I archived it right away. I just sat in a box for all these years.
And again, you did well with your 9.
Yeah, I did well. I mean, it didn't initially hit my reserve of 15,000 for it. Then afterwards, what Heritage does is a 2-week offer period. So after the auction ended, you have a 2-week offer period. And so I received an offer that was with the buyer's premium above my actual asking price. So of course I accepted it. And so it ended up going for about 15. In total with the buyer's premium, and you combine the flare, because I also put a flare PSA 8, which was a dismal, $1,500. I think it sold for maybe $1,800 with the buyer's premium. It was all grand total for both cards, about 18 grand.
Yeah, I mean, a good day's work.
Hey, that's a great. I'm not going to complain at all.
No, nothing to sneeze at. But
I wasn't married to the card. I'm looking for capital raise for my store, and that was the perfect card to actually do it in the right time. So.
Yeah, it worked out well, and worked out really well to this seller. Congratulations to him or her. Who
this was the second attempt on this, by the way.
Was it?
This was the second attempt on this card. This person,
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I'd seen it before, and I guess they had a reserve and it didn't get met, but the market was there for them now.
Let's talk a little bit about the reserve on that, just so we can go real quick. Is that the misconception here is that people are aware of what the reserve is from the very beginning. That
you don't find out until the end, right?
It's not until the end. I think within the last 5 to 7 days of the listing, because it's a 30-day listing. It's 1 month, ever. It's 30 days. I think it's within 5 or 7 days when it gets to that point and it hasn't hit that reserve, and they reveal the reserve at that point. Then the beginning parts of it, you don't know what that reserve is.
Right.
You don't even know there's a reserve, to be honest with you. You have no knowledge of a reserve at all.
So you could be blindsided by that and think you're going to win, and all of a sudden realize you're like way short.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I've never bid. I've never been the bidder. I've only been the seller.
Right. So, guys, suffice it to say, our number one sale for August was a 1982 Cosmos Hulk Hogan PSA 10 for
And
$51,600, which
also, we count this as the big winner right now because we're not really including any of these private sales yet because these private sales are unknown to us.
they don't exist.
Until that's actually revealed, this stands as the number one.
Well, our number two was the biggest sale from Select, which was the Rock Black one of one, and it sold for $7,000. A bunch of gold sold early in the month for around 2,500. One went for that, and then a bunch subsequently followed. So that set the market. But the Black Rock went for $7,000, and right away that's going to lead us to the question: well, what about that Prism Black Rock that's floating out there? That's supposed to be worth all this money. It's a bit of a sore spot for me because look, I appreciate people's privacies, but these guys that are saying, well, I know something you don't know, like what, have you signed a non-disclosure agreement with these guys? Like if someone told me, gave me a number, I would put that number out there because to me, it's more important that the community knows and we can stop all this speculation. The Prism Rock, again, we're not going to repeat figures that people have thrown out. And I've heard different figures. So right away when I hear the number we heard yesterday versus another number that I'd heard some time ago, and I'm not going to repeat these numbers because they're not real. At least one of them isn't.
As far as I'm concerned, the card hasn't even been pulled.
We haven't seen it. You know what I mean? Like I'd want proof on that. But the Select the Select Rock one of one is worth $7,000. So is it reasonable to think that the Prism one of one is a six-figure card? I don't think so. Is it a $50,000 card, as has been suggested to me? I don't buy it, until someone shows me proof at this point, Tony, and I might be the last bastion. And again, not meaning to insinuate that anybody's a liar, but I just don't see it. I just don't see that the Select legitimately sold for $7,000 and the Rock Prism is purportedly sold for a multiple of 8 or 9 times, 10 times that. Anyways, so enough about that. But it's something that's never going to go away, I guess. And I don't like it. I just don't like the idea of I know something you don't know, this kind of thing. Well, if you know something, then tell us. And if
again,
it can't
not
be
to discredit anybody who's throwing out numbers.
No.
But when you start hearing like, well, I know a guy who knows a guy who heard from a guy that
Dude,
knows the bot. I mean,
do you know how many people hear things in this hobby
Sure.
that are wrong more than half the time? I've heard this, I've heard that, I hear this, I heard that, and some of these people can't tell the difference between a football card and a wrestling card. So how am I supposed to? Anyways, we'll move on. Number 3, 1991 Undertaker Classic Rookie Card PSA 10, 55.67. So that's pretty good. We know that
Right.
the Rock cards themselves, I wouldn't say a dime a dozen because they've all been pretty much scooped up, but those cards weren't that valuable relatively. But you get one graded, it comes back at 10, you got yourself a $5,000 plus card.
Yep.
And that's good because that really is, I would say his Panini card is nicer, but that really is the sort of Undertaker card that everyone gravitates to, that blue look classic card.
Yep.
Number 4 is the Wrestling All-Stars, Hulk Hogan, 1982, a BGS 8.5.
Wouldn't be a top 10 unless without All-Stars.
Yeah. And there is one now at Golden, by the way. It's a PSA 9, and I think it's holding at 19 grand presently.
Is it a PSA 9 or is it a BGS 9.5?
My apologies. It might be a BGS. That's right. That's right. Now, how would that, I don't know anything about this stuff. How would a BGS 9.5 compare to a PSA 9? Or is that one of those discussions questions that never gets answered?
I think the latter statement there, yes. I think it's just that, I'm not the great grading guard. You can talk to those guys that know that stuff better. But it's, imagine if that car was a PSA 9. I'd love to see the comparison. Let's see a PSA 9 go up against a 9.5.
Well, we know that there's not uniformity amongst grading companies, like a PSA 9 to a PSA.
Uniformity amongst the graders within a grading company.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The company, PSA themselves, could one day grade it at this and then the next morning grade it for something else, right? Which is one of the problems that a lot of we people that don't do it have, but we do understand that this Undertaker card, if it wasn't a PSA 10, isn't getting the 50, 55, 67. And we know for a fact that if the Cosmos wasn't a 10, it wouldn't be setting the record, right?
Right. So that has been like even a BGS, 10, pristine or something like that. I don't think it would have hit that number.
And people always say if a Hogan PSA 10 All-Star show up, that's going to exceed 6 figures and by far be the record. And that's a big if, because I would have thought we would have found it by now, but you never know. But that does speak to grading at the highest levels, and while some of us might be sort of reticent to get into it, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. These numbers we're not making up, and these numbers are getting these numbers because they're PSA graded. End of story. And I know you're keen on CSG for wrestling, but the biggest ones always tend to be PSA.
I mean, PSA. I mean, they're
And the next one on the list, 1997 Rock Cardinal Games, PSA 10, $3,500. Now, if that wasn't a PSA 10, it's not $3,500, but it speaks to the grade and the fact that that is the Rocky card, Rock rookie card. It's still recognized as such. Number 6, 2022 John Cena Select Gold, number to 10, $3,500. So that's a pretty good sale, because really outside of the Rock for $7,000, everything else was pretty much $2,500 and under. So that's a good number for Cena on that one. One that I highlighted earlier in the year, 2022 Bret Hart Prism 1/1 black autograph went for $33.81. And you know how much we love Bret up here. So that's a real big number for him. I don't think he's ever seen a number that high. But again, it's nice to see Bret in the conversation with Andre and Rock and Hogan and Undertaker. I mean, his cards are being considered in that same sort of esteem. Number 8, 2014 Roman Reigns Top Probe, number to 10, PSA 9, $3,300. And we've seen that card higher. Obviously, we know that one went for $15,000 earlier this year. That was a 1/1, I believe, the Super Fractor.
Well, Roman is still holding strong in the sense of commanding some big numbers that we keep seeing him on the list, or some lists anyways. I feel like his card has sort of kind of cooled off.
It might have a bit, huh?
Of everybody else, I think his have cooled off more than everybody else.
Yeah, because Hogan's not cooling down and Andre's not cooling down.
Nope.
Yeah. And then last,
number nine is surprising for me on this list.
Yeah, WCW autograph for $3,000. And if I would have said, take your guess, you'd say, oh, it must be a Hogan, or it must be a Sting, or it must have been a Macho. Well, close to Macho, it was a Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So I think that's the highest we've ever seen her card sell for.
And is this Raw, right?
This is Raw.
Yeah, which is
this is Raw. You don't see a lot of graded WCW autographs for some reason.
Outside of Jamie Wallace throwing those up there every once in a while, you see him go with a bunch of
stuff. Yeah, he's sort of leading the charge on that. Yeah. And then the last one we have on list 2,700 is a PSA 8 1982 Ric Flair's Wrestling All-Stars. But I should mention this, like just below that 2,700 figure, there was a $2,500 Andre Wrestling All-Stars. I think it was graded 8. There was also a number to 10 Andre Shimmer Gold at 2,500. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there was a whole whack of Rock Selects. There was about 5 or 6 sales of number to 10s, 2 or 3 of those, and some of the ringside ones. So, a good month. I mean, anytime that we have 51,600 at the top of our list, it's a good month. But even our lowest number, 27, quite a big month in wrestling card prices, relative to July.
Yeah, big time. I mean, big. Yeah. Can't keep the total average like that. That 51,000 does help.
Any comments from you on that before we move to our index? Because I know we have a lot of stuff to cover past that.
Nope.
Okay, so we'll get to our index. This is the monthly thing that we do. We look at certain things every month, and we just quickly comment on how it performed to the last month and how it's doing in general. And that sort of gives us a rough idea, if anything's falling off a mountain or things are really going crazy. First one is the AEW Hobby Box. We got it this month at $140.44. And that seems to be a little more than last month, but not, there it is. Yeah. You can see across 241, 205, 199, 127, and then what's blocked out with us there is 140.44. So it seems to be pretty stable, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it took a big dip, a big hit last month, and then it kind of picked up a little bit for this month.
It did, but that hit last month wasn't indicative of a further drop. It actually rebounded. And if you go down to the AEW base set, it's right in there, if you go to 2 months ago, 35.13 and 36.77 and 35.71. So that seems to be where that base set is coalesced in around the $35 mark.
Yep.
Similarly, with the Prism below that, to 2022 Prism base set, $75. And we've been calling that a $75 base set for the last few months. It was 77, then up to 76.
I'm a little bit surprised with the amount of product that's out there. That hasn't come down a little bit more.
Yeah, we were calling for that to happen, weren't we? We were thinking more of a $50 base on that, but it's holding. Maybe because people, I mean, there's a lot of product out there, but not everybody, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the base sets and the new Select. it's not everybody assembles a base set, and you know it takes quite a bit of work. So you know, even though there might be a ton of product out there, to actually get out there and pull all of 200, remember there's 200 in the Prism base, not easy.
Right. No, so this may be the the average price going forward, I think,
Seems to be.
for a while.
Yeah. 1985 Topps Hulk Hogan. It's been around a $35 to $40 card. It went down a little bit this month, $32.73. You know what I noticed too, Tony, is that a lot of them are graded. It seems that they're harder and harder to find raw. Just like the Wrestling All-Stars, it's hard to find good versions of those not graded. A lot of these 85 Topps Hulk Hogan's are getting graded. There'll come a time where we won't have 9 sales left of anything raw anymore.
You're right.
Yeah. So 32. And then the last one, or not, second last one, is the Impel base set, your set. There was only 3, so it went up to almost $20, but you know, there was one for $16 in the middle. That's going to float around 15 to $20, it seems. But again, we only had 3 sales, so you know, they're not as plentiful as they used to be.
I've got to cool the printing press off a little bit like that. I got to
Yeah,
a little bit higher market value here. So
yeah, exactly. That's what you're doing. You're playing some sort of pump and dump game with these. I don't know what it is.
that's right.
1991 WCW and Pell Base we did, and then a Royal Rumble set that you don't see any more raw sets. You see master sets being sold, and yet another one sold this month for $450. We had 2 sell last month for $500, and then one for $500 month before that. So that's a $450 to $500 master set now, which is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely decent. I mean, just the Cena card alone, other pays for it, I guess. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah. I've said it many times before, man. I totally regret selling all those base sets I sold for so cheap. I sold them. I probably
Well,
30, 35 of those sets.
Speaking of base sets and master sets, let's talk about Select.
Yeah.
You know, we prefaced the show by saying Select came out, people really dig it, another home run. You know, me personally, having the cards in hand now, they look great. This is the first time ever, though, that I have to actually assemble the base sets. For those people that don't know, the first couple of hundred, the Premier and the Concourse, they're fairly easy. But then from there, the numbers 200, 300, the ring sides, nobody's going to have all of those in one go. So I've had to assemble those in several different lots, and Chuck and I are back and forth on those, trying to assemble that. And then the fourth tier, the mezzanines, are virtually impossible. They came out in the blasters, and you know, you're going to be able to get those eventually for $5 a card. But some of the bigger names know, and some of the ones like Roxy Perez, that only come in that group, you're going to pay a little more for. Cody Rhodes, for example, which is number 299, the last of the ring sides. I had to pay a little extra for that one because you're just not going to. That one's just. I don't like the word super short print because I can't say for sure, but it seems like there's less of those. But you know, there used to be a time, Tony, not that long ago, where a set would come out, a top set would come out, and I would get an email or a phone call from someone saying, "Okay, Paul, you know, I've got your master set, and I could do this, and all the inserts for this much money." And I'd say, "Let's go," and it would arrive here, and I'd open them up, and I'd make a flip through. Not with this. You know, when you're trying to put together 400 base cards, a set that's 400 cards. Now I'm a collector like everybody else, and I made the decision, look, I'm not going to get all 100 of these mezzanines, so I'm just going to focus on some of the better cards like the Roxy. I got an Undertaker so far, I got a Stone Cold so far, maybe a few other ones.
Each release so far has been progressively more difficult for a base set collector to collect.
Right. And on the NXTs that are coming out, they're doing it again, but not 400. It's 100 base sets, but then an additional 25. Now, look, Topps used to have something called their base set variants, which were similar numbered cards, but a different image. But they never had a whole set's worth. So in other words, the base set variants in Topps release might be 20 pieces or 15 pieces or maybe at the max 30, but never, you know, a clone of a set, then another 100, then another 100, then another 100, then they're all numbered from 1 to 400. I mean, Topps used to do with their Then, Now, and Forever. They used to carry on their flagship, and they would number the Then, Now, and Forevers going on, so that if you wanted to be technical about it, you could say, okay, you want this flagship, you need to have the Then, Now, and Forevers because they were a continuation of the numbers. Well, even then, though, I could always go out and get those completely at once. It was never difficult for people breaking cases to put together with a case or two a complete set. That's not the case with these at all. I mean, you couldn't even finish the second tier, I don't think, in a case, you know, so never mind getting the third tier, and the mezzanine ones are impossible. So that's what this is. It's a wake-up call for me, being a sort of lifelong set collector. But hey, that's all part of it, you know. And Yeah, it's work, and this is going to be a very expensive month just on this, but I appreciate what guys who personally collect do or do the parallels and the rainbows. Now, the parallel structure itself, I'm going to let you take over because you obviously are chasing down Dexter's and you've got a bunch, and you can sort of explain how it works.
Select, actually, surprisingly, I just picked up my first parallel that I'm hoping to get here by the end of the week.
Really, you haven't, because I know they have like elephant and tie dye, and I didn't make a list of them all. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
were you
that's
guys
all
not
on the
gonna
website.
were you
I mean,
gonna
it's
do
on
a
the
show? I
website
don't
to
know if
check
you were
out
gonna
the
do a show
different levels.
specifically on Select and the parallels, and were you intending on that, on doing a specific?
No, I'm not intending on going after
No,
everything at all. I mean, I'll pick up whatever I can pick up when I can pick it up, and that's a
right,
whole different conversation for another time.
right,
But I'm still having fun looking. I'm having a lot of fun. That's a testament to our wonderful hobby and the kind of collectors we have out there. People sending me messages, "Hey, I thought of
yes,
you. Send me a link to this particular
yes,
listings like that. For this tie dye or this zebra prints like that. I see them out there, but these are things that are out of my budget to collect. I'm not a super collector in the sense that I can go out and afford to buy all this stuff. I did pick up a tie dye one recently, and I got it for half the price that the market value was going for at the time.
right.
So I'm really happy about that. I can't wait to get that. But I'll pick up what I can when I can. The level of parallels in this is
Mind bar.
unparalleled.
Yeah. Well, parallels of your parallels. I mean,
Yep,
you can have your elephant and then have multicolored elephants. Am I correct?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
And then down the line it goes. I mean, I've seen so many different sort of breakdowns of, okay, so for these inserts it's this, for the bases it's this, for these autographs it's this, and I'm glad I'm not in that parallel world that I don't have to concern. I like, even Chuck, when he was buying his base cards, he ended up getting a few that were blue, and he said, "Oh, I don't think I'm silver, because the silver is not the base."
yep,
And he was like, "Oh, I don't think I got any of the actual base cards." I'm like, "Yeah, I like to get the actual base cards, the cheapest version, if you will,
yep.
the base version." Because that's what I flip through. And I'm hoping to have the 300 cards. I've got another box that just came in today, another bunch here. So these are all ringside. So I want to get through those. Send the ones that
Yeah, for me,
I
it becomes
Chuck.
difficult for me because, like, as a Loomis collector, mine's only available. He's only available in the ringside set.
Right. And you
So
got that ringside.
all of my, not only my base, but also
Right.
all of my parallels are all within that tier,
Right.
which makes it a little bit more difficult for me to go after if I wanted to.
Well, you've got the ringside Loomis already, but if all of a sudden a tie-dye one comes out, then you can't go. Well, that stuff is going to be expensive anyways. People are paying
Like I said, I picked up the
$200.
tie dye one, so I have that coming.
Oh, do you? Okay. Was it
But
a lot? 'Cause I know
I've been
some of those
offered
are
the
like
zebra,
hundreds of dollars.
and but it's, again, unless I start moving some cards, which I got to do.
Was it really expensive though, the tie-dye ones? Because I know they're getting good money.
Depends. I mean, like I said, immediately someone sent me a message going, "Hey, a tie dye just showed up of your guy." Sent me a link. I go, "Yep, thanks. I'm already watching that one actually."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, by the way, here's another one. Oh, and another one. Oh, and another one." And these were all numbered to 25, by the way.
Oh, I see.
So within like a half an hour, this guy sent me a link to like 5 tie dye cards that all got listed within a half hour of each other.
Not the same seller though.
Not the same seller, no, there's various sellers. So one of them I'd already been watching had a very high price on one number to 25. As a matter of fact, by the time this comes out, I already have it. I've already showed it probably by then, but it was number 25 at 25,
Right.
and the person was asking like $100 for it, and it didn't sell. And then it got lowered to 75, and then just went for a straight auction, for 99
Yeah.
cents, let it ride, and I plucked it for half of what the other ones were going for.
That's great. That's great. Even the Cody Rhodes number 299. It was weird for me to have to pay like, it was $30 or something like that, or 25, whatever it was, for something that wasn't a relic, wasn't an autograph. You know what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah,
just a base card. And I'm like, what am I doing? You know what
yeah.
I mean? But it's like, wow. So let's hope that
But I'm
this is
also not in any hurry because we're still in
you know,
that honeymoon phase with the
yes, there's
release.
going to be more.
Uh,
That's a really good point that you make.
I'll wait until
Yeah.
the disagreements start happening in the relationship before I start buying stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. But you make a very good point. It is only what, 2 weeks now?
Yep,
There's going to be a lot of this shit floating around, and you're going to be able to get it cheaper. Already the mezzanines today are a lot less than they were on Friday. You know what I
yep.
mean? So you're going to get dollar mezzanine cards of the lesser names.
Of course.
You're just not going to be able to get a lot of them. So the idea
And
of
from my understanding too, because being a blaster box, my understanding, Chuckster got 6 boxes, but pulled one actual base card out of 6 boxes. Then
yeah.
other people would open 4 blaster boxes and got 6 or 7 base cards out of there.
Yeah, it was insinuated that the collations were off somehow. And again, I can't speak to any of that stuff, because I don't work for Panini.
It seems to be true in that sense. I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, over the decades, I mean, Topps have been known to do that as well too. Collation problems within both hobby and
Collations within your own. But the for my issue being up here in Toronto is that I'm paying $15 to $18 to ship a card. So I can't buy cards one at a time, which means I can't buy a 100 lot base set. And I'd have to get lots like I've done here, a bunch of different big lots of cards, and you're just not going to see those on the mezzanines. Now, Chuck, if he's paying $2-3, or you or anybody in the States, maybe it's possible, but I don't think so, because you're going to be spending more than that on the bigger names like the Undertaker and Austin. You're not going to get those for less than $10, I don't think, or 15 or whatever it might be, wherever they settle on. And some of them, like the Roxy Perez, if it's super short printed, could be $100 card for all I know. I'm not sure where that's going to land, but so very interesting. To the cards themselves, honestly, between Revolution and Prism, I like them just as much. I found Revolution a little busy with all the swirls, and I didn't, I think this is the nicest looking set of the three. Certainly, we didn't have the clusterfuck with the boxes that we had on the Paninis, dropping $1,000 in a week.
That's exactly. I think that people are talking about designs, talking about great picture selections like that, but
and the great box price out the gate.
At the end of the day, it's the box price. I think the box
price
end up being, that's the home run aspect of it.
Yeah,
such a great price point, and what you get in your box
relative to what you pay.
It's very valid. I think that it's a good value there.
Yeah, that's why I think so many people are digging it. That's why so many people are proud of showing your hints, and that's why so many people. I did that little quick informal poll on Twitter last week, which is your favorite of the three, and Select come out, I think, 53%. Yep. So it's amongst the smaller group of us. It's a really,
like, I would love to see more. I love to see you put a poll out, 5-6 months from now, and just include those same three. So now, like, we've had all the dust has settled on all these.
Yeah. Do you still like Select better than Prism?
Now let's see. Are you still feeling the same love for Select as you did?
Yeah. Interesting. So anything else on Select? I mean,
no, I mean, overall, I've heard reviews from people saying it's the best product they've ever had in their entire life. It's product of the year, like that. I don't have enough of it. I have a box. I never even opened it yet. I have a hobby box sitting behind me. Maybe I'll open it. I don't know. I think it's a wonderful looking product.
Where are the boxes now?
Like, for WWE has been very
250-ish. Where are the boxes at? Where are the hobby boxes at now? 250 on the Prisms?
Prisms, it's in the high 200s.
Yeah.
You need the high 200s. Yeah.
So a lot of the Prism nonsense was just all the fuss and debacle off the top.
Yes.
And, once the dust settled and
now we'll take Select, and I'm going to be interested in seeing 6 months down the road, where will Select box prices be at? And I would suspect those are going to be a little bit higher priced than your Prism.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're not going to have as precipitous downturn like Prism did, because we know what happened there. It's a sad thing. But anyways, so yeah, guys, if you haven't gotten any Select, and
if you haven't got any Select, what are you waiting for, man? It's
thumbs up on that.
At the end of the day, it's a fun product at a great price point that we as wrestling card collectors are more accustomed to, and it's got a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah. All right. Next on the agenda, we know about the Rock football card. We know about the Rock Scorpion King card. We know about the Rock Mummy card, and we know about the Rock's Rock cards. But what did we discover when we were in Atlantic City?
Well, you and I, we roomed together for the National, and during every night we had amazing conversations, and I love that. And one night you were talking to me about you and your significant other were, I think, watching Star Trek.
Yeah. Or
something Star Trek related. And you go, The Rock was on an episode of Star Trek.
I said that to you.
Right away, he actually has a trading card, because they actually made trading cards for Star Trek for years. Sure as shit, we jump on launch like that, and there they were.
And I'm happy to show them here. And what I'm going to do is, when I got mine, I wasn't going to open them, but then I realized, no, I got to open them. So I'm going to open them right now. It's not quite a box break, but this is me ripping open.
Now, what year are these, sir?
Now these are from year 2000.
2000
They're
by
made by a company called Rittenhouse Archives. It's big in non-sports, and it's just a 5-card set, and they're numbered to $9.99. And it's 3 Rocky cards and 2 cards of Jerry Ryan 7 of 9. So there's the first one. You can see that. There's another one of 7 to 9, and then here we go. There we go. So there it is. There's the first one. There's the second one, and there's the third one. So if you were unaware, the Sankatsi is the name of it, but there are these 3 rock cards. They're hard to find. I was able to get the last 2. Guess who got the other one was Chuck. Yep. We're still trying to find one for you, but yeah, I think that this one in particular has a great look. It even yep. has the eyebrow there. Now they're bigger. They're postcard size. They're 5 by 7s, I guess they yep. are, but they're hard to come by. And we in the wrestling card hobby have never actually talked about them. So that's why when you said, are there cards? I'm like, no, we'd heard about them if there were cards, and off you went and you found us the cards.
Yep. And, you know, Rittenhouse put out a lot of quality products. They've had the Star Trek license for many, many years. They put out traditional trading card size stuff for a long time for everything across the board, from Next Generation to Voyager to whatever you name it, from Star Trek stuff. So, and these are hand numbered to $9.99 each. The sets themselves are all the same number. So you actually get a complete set. They're all going to be number, you know, 249, 249, yeah. all the same. So they're really cool. They're just a cool little discovery. You know, early.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at them until now, so I'm actually enjoying them now that I see them. But yeah, very, very cool.
Yep. Those are cool. And you know, we decided to talk about it now because I think on some, like, you know, Brian Williams like that's been kind of promoting them on Instagram for himself as well. And
yes,
like, oh, I guess the cat's out of the bag. It's like that. Someone kind
well, we wanted to get your set first. We didn't want to tell everybody until you managed to get your set as well. Then, like, when we came back right away, we found 2 sets, and Chuck and I jumped on those. Then there was a third one, and I guess you tried to do the buy it now. It didn't work, and they're gone now. So someone did buy it.
Someone else got it for the actual.
And I haven't checked since, so I don't know if there's any out there at the moment. But you know, add this to the Rock universe. You know.
Yeah, there's actually, and you and I'll talk again off air like that. But I just saw another one as well, a different card
of Rock.
Of Rock.
Really? Okay.
We'll talk a little bit about it. I want to get more. I want to get more information about it before I start everything. You know.
Well, we'll talk about that one next month. Okay, the next topic. How about some Wrestling All-Stars uncut sheets?
They don't exist.
Yeah, well, up until very recently, we only were aware of one uncut sheet that was in possession of Mr. David Peck. And I was approached about 2 months ago from someone whose father had some of these uncut sheets up in his attic. And we talked about them. They were aware that the cards themselves were doing well value-wise. And she was just trying to get a sense as to what the current value of those sheets might be. And I told her, look, they're very rare. It's going to be very difficult for me to give you an exact number, but I'll put the word out there to a couple of people and see what I come back with. But honestly, the only way to maximize truly the top amount that you're going to get is if they go to auction. And she already knew that. She was already aware of Heritage, and I think she's doing something with Pokemon or something like that. Anyway, so the story on these is that we've shown pictures of them, and we obviously weren't at liberty to talk about them until Heritage themselves posted the lot. They are coming up for sale in September. It's 3 incomplete uncut sheets, and you can see when you look at these sheets how they did the collating of them and cut them to make the 3 different sets. Now, the gentleman that owned them, he's an older gentleman, and unfortunately, he's not in the greatest of health now, which is why they're talking about selling these. And he was involved. He was involved back in the day in the early 80s. They're from Detroit, Michigan, and he was involved with Eddie Farhat, also known as the Original Sheik, that used to run shows at the Cobo Hall. And the promotion was called Big Time Wrestling. And this gentleman who owns these sheets, he was a photographer. So he actually did photography for the wrestling, and he did the programs. And he, back then, there was no desktop publishing or graphic stuff, by hand, would do the programs. And he was just an all-around guy associated with that promotion at the time. And obviously, when these cards came into being, he was on the scene at the time, and he was able to keep one of the original uncut sheets. They stayed in his attic all this time until now. And we're expecting them to go for a pretty penny come September when they go to Heritage.
It's the proper way to do it. We were talking back and forth early on when Discovery was made, so that, how these should be, made public, for sale. And the best way, like you said, is going to be through some sort of an auction house like that. We
Got
had
it.
recommended, because I had such a good experience with Heritage.
Yeah.
We recommended that to them. And
Yes.
but clearly they already have a built-in relationship with them. I guess they had done some consignment work with them in the past.
Yeah, you found out that,
Yeah.
you found out that she had. And again, we had several conversations. She was a very nice lady, and at first she wasn't sure if her dad was going to sell them or not. And then I made a quick offer to see if she was interested. Like, if you're looking for cash fast, to get rid of them, I could accommodate that. But I told her that you'll probably get more, potentially a lot more, if you expose them to the entire market. And I put the word out to a couple of guys that would be interested, and of course they were. But in fairness, it would have to be what put to auction to really get the best price. I don't know if she reached out to anybody else on them. It's been suggested that a bunch of collectors might have been, but I wasn't aware of anyone else. No one else has spoken
Yeah,
about them.
I mean, nobody else has stepped forward to say, yeah, they've reached out to me and
Yeah, she was just again looking for pricing, which is why I think she reached out to me. She was just looking to get a sense of what the number might be, and I gave her a ballpark, and curious to see how far off I'm going to be on that ballpark that I gave her, and I'm hopefully going to be off by a lot, and they do well on it, because it's a true find. It's not like these Star Trek cards. That's it's something truly special.
yeah, early on when this went in, I started having discussions with my consignment agent guy, whatever you want to call him, over at Heritage, who's been nothing but good to me. And I said, hey, there's something really historical going to be coming down out here soon. I think it really should go to you guys. So if it ever happens, I'd love to have you sort of negotiate this stuff.
Sure.
And it ended up being where she already had a relationship with them and went to them, and which is great. So it went to the right place, and they're going to take good care of her, that item. Apparently, it's in hand with them now, and it'll be.
Yes, when I mentioned Heritage, remembering how they worked with your Cosmos, it wasn't the first time she'd heard the name. Yeah. So I think that she was doing a bit of research ahead of time, and I told her it can't go to eBay. It's got to be gold in her Heritage, and we've just had direct experience with Heritage, so we recommend them. But a lot of people are saying that they're not legit.
I wouldn't say a lot. There's some people on a couple different social media platforms, call them BS on it, because these are guys that are just again on the side of the hobby for a while and just feel like maybe they got the FOMO. I don't know.
No, guys, they're real. They're real. I've had a few conversations with her and her dad, and she told me quite a bit about her dad. Unfortunately, he's got cancer now, so it's a rough time for him. So a bit of money will help. That's why I'm hoping it's going to be a big bit of money. And he was one of us. He was a wrestling guy.
Definitely. And then on the side note of that too, we're kind of hoping that maybe she or might want to discuss with us on an episode at some point in time.
Yeah, I did invite them. The dad, no, because of his health. And then she said that maybe he might be able to give me just a quick 5-minute phone call and maybe answer some questions there. And that didn't happen. But she did certainly give me permission, if you will, to talk about them now. I told her, look, we do this thing here where we speak to wrestling cards and we talk to wrestling collectors, and anything we can do to help and to hype them, because it's such an amazing find. And she said, oh yeah, by all means, let everybody know. And as soon as we get word of when that auction is, we'll let people know, and start saving your shekels, folks. If that's something you have to have, not a lot of other people have them. So, and it's a pretty nice piece.
Agreed. Can't wait to see what it ends up going for.
Yeah. You want to do an over/under on, or do you want to wait and see? Is it going to be 5 figures?
Do I think it'd be 5 figures? Oh yeah, I think it'd be 5 figures.
Good chance, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And because they're being sold as a set, all three.
Yes.
So individually, I think they would sell for 5 figures.
Really? Well, they're not mint, but they're not horrible. They're not mangled.
No, they're not. But it's a super rare find.
That's 40 plus years old, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll talk about that more by this time next month. We might even know when the auction is going to be, so we can let you guys know. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant didn't turn up in our top sales because we just do cards. But Andre had a really good month. He had a couple of 8x10 sell in the $7,000 range. One sold up here where he initialed it Jean Ferrer, which was his name prior to Andre the Giant. Sold in Quebec for 9,000 Canadian, which would translate to just a little bit under 7 G's US. He was on a run there for a bit this month with high value collectibles, and we know that his uncut, his magazine cut card was a big number. We know that he holds the record on Prism for the 15,000. Up until 2 days ago, him and Hogan shared the Wrestling All Stars overall record that's just been beaten by Hogan. So shout out to Andre the Giant. And I guess we should mention Main Event Collectibles. He was at our talk in Atlantic City, and there's a bunch of us on stage, and he was there, and he was wearing an Andre the Giant t-shirt. And I said to him, "Hey, nice t-shirt, man." And then he said something, and then he was like, "Oh, Main Event Collectibles." I'm like, and I wanted to go over there and wait, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, he was gone. I was
Yeah,
like,
the guy
dude,
is so mysterious.
I've got so much to talk to you about. We need to get you on the show. You are.
I'd love to have him on. I've messaged him before about talking like that, and I just don't know if it's up his cup of tea or I'm not sure. But he came in, introduced himself, and then like Batman, he was like
disappeared.
gone.
Yeah, he was gone. He was wearing an Andre the Giant shirt. But Greg, I think his name is. I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think so.
It's the Nap collection, but Nap with a K.
Yeah.
But congratulations on him. Notwithstanding our vintage guys like Uncle Danny and Rob and Dave that have always collected that stuff, but he had the foresight to really go all in on Andre, and I think that Andre the Giant is still the man. I know Hogan just beat him with this Cosmos, but if you've got anything Andre the Giant and it's in good condition and it's old, you're in the money.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Interesting, we had the two big icons that time, battling it out still to this day in cardboard form.
Yeah, to this day still, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great, man. Just an exciting month, man. Really exciting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened.
It's nice that we're having these months where there's excitement, and beginning of the year where we had stuff going on, all this build up and hype, and then divisions happening within our hobbies like that. It's nice to see that we're kind of back to what we were before the whole Prism fiasco kind of.
And you know what? There are some long-term effects of people that don't follow each other anymore,
Sure.
that were friends prior and aren't friends anymore.
That's going to happen no matter what.
And there are certain characters within our hobbies that just have a propensity to
stir the pot as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, to stir the pot or fly off the handle. You know what I mean?
Sure.
On the other end, and yeah, that's fine. Everybody is everybody. But the point I'm making is that it seems like that's all calmed down. That that divide between old and new, between you have to be. Yeah, we have to be respectful of each other. Case in point, I mentioned to you about that PWCC show that I caught Brett McGrath on. It was a wonderful show, by the way, where he was representing wrestling cards very, very well. And he's talking about how he collects the gold Chrome stuff, the 2014 Chrome, and how that's the stuff he wants to get slabbed because that's unique. There's not a lot of it. And then the topic came around to what Bret Hart card would you want? And I think he picked, again, something from Prism, something new and shiny. I'm like, what about his All-Star? What about his 87? What about his Panini, for God's sakes? But then I realized, wait a minute, as I'm thinking, I like his Panini card. Why do I like his Panini card? Well, because it's rare. That's why Bret likes the rare gold, So I understand that whole aspect of it, that a lot of these modern guys, it's not that they're modern or gold guys per se. It's just they like to have something in their possession that not a lot of other people have,
Sure.
Same with me and this, it's not something everybody has. So, and it speaks to the fact that we just collect differently. We like different things. Some of us great, some of us don't. Some of us are parallel, some of us aren't. Some of us, cover all of it. Some of us are very narrow. Some guys PC, some guy do rainbows.
And that's what it is, by the way, and that's what it is today. It's okay that if you're that person today, like ask me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that I was going to collect parallels just like that. I would have told you you're out of your damn mind because I don't do that kind of stuff. But here I am doing it, and I'm having fun doing it. It's okay to change your lane every once in a while. You don't have to say like, well, I'm just this guy. That's going to be forever. It's okay to say I collected vintage for all these years, and now I'm collecting some shiny modern stuff.
Right.
Or I'm only about modern stuff, but you know what? I dabble a little bit now over in the vintage stuff.
Right.
It's okay. It's really okay.
You can change. My overriding point is that the hobby is stronger when we get along.
Yep.
When we sort of go in stride and we don't sort of look for ways to pick each other apart because of these petty differences.
Yeah, we went through a few months there. We went through a few months there with people. We weren't hearing the compliments about our hobby like we used to hear about what a nice. And now we're starting to hear that again. Now I'm talking to people. I've been doing some interviews with people.
Yes.
And they've complimented our niche in the hobby worlds like that, saying like, you know what, there's no better place in the wrestling card collector.
And I'm proud of that. all these dubious and spurious price claims that were made. Unfortunately, a lot of us reacted poorly to it, and it caused dissension.
Sure.
And people will be people, but I'm happy to see that by and large, as a group, we're all sort of running in the same direction again, which is
and I think we're coming out better for it, because we're seeing new people going, you know what, I kind of gave up my baseball stuff and now I'm getting into the wrestling stuff. I'm seeing a lot more fun. It's a more accepting community and not as competitive, and whatever the case may be in other communities. But it's nice to see that we're going to kind of getting back to what we were before when we started having these early podcasts talking about the great community we have. We've always had that. We had a little bit of problems within our family, but our family had a nice dinner and we talked it all out.
There it is. Perfect.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to what September brings us, man. It's going to be the remainder of the year. I mean, a lot of good stuff coming up. It's just happy to see it all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have the All-Star sheets come up. We're going to have Panini NXT come up.
Yep.
At a minimum. So yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Hopefully we'll see some new AEW product coming out possibly. And
yeah.
Of course, there's going to be a sprinkle of some great independent stuff coming out between now and then too. So
there's always indie stuff happening.
Always.
And I can't keep up with it. It comes in, I catalog it, put it up, and next. Half the time, Chuck will send me an email, I'll send him money, and a box comes and I have no clue what's in it.
I kind of get a nice little thrill, chuckle out of it when I go and I send something off to Chuckster and I say, hey, I have this information on this. He goes, I never heard this one before. So it's always nice when I can stump him.
Yeah.
Because
one came up. You came up with one that stumped all of us this month. That WCW. I don't know where we landed on those, but none of the four of us, Anthony, me, you, Chuck,
still have no idea.
Yeah. So usually, if it gets by me, it gets by Chuck, it gets by Anthony, it gets by you, and it's not something vintage or Japanese that we can go to Robert David with.
Yep.
Doesn't exist.
No. I mean, you get real. Stumped. So I just,
it's not real.
Images, and I just kind of hope for another day where they come across our table some other time and go like, oh, do you know where they came from? Oh, now we've solved the mystery. So it's all part of the journey of archiving cards.
Well, look at the 95 Paninis. How often do you see them if I'm not going on about
Almost never.
Never. Yeah. If I'm not blaring that trumpet bi-weekly or whatever it is, just to remind people, they disappear.
I got to start doing that with that 2000 Diva set that never came out.
Yeah, you should actually. You should make like it was actually released.
Yeah, I'm gonna start pumping. Maybe I'll send that off for grading. Have the only graded set in the world.
Well, you'd have to list them first, though, right?
I have to list them.
You'd have to list them on WTC, so the grading companies have something. Oh, they're there, are they?
They've been there since I first got them back in the early 2000s.
Oh, you put them up back then. I've never priced them, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, good luck trying to price them. There's nothing to price them with.
I know. Well, that's the problem nowadays is on this pricing. With all the parallels and everything else. It's like I would say 3 out of 5 requests that I get on the week now want me to give an idea of something that's a parallel, right? And I just can't. I've got this number to 5 of, number to 25 of super
Yeah, I'm gonna apologize for that right away because I just sent them like you. I get the same messages. I send them to you.
Yeah, but the problem is that I'm having a hard enough time trying to make sense of just the base cards and what they may be worth. Never mind trying to figure out. Like yesterday, I think it was Senton sent me a note asking me about the autographed MJF from All In and the Cody.
I sent them to you.
Yeah, and I think I told him $200, which seemed right to me for the MJF because I think a graded one went for around that. But if all of a sudden you want to talk about a Prism, white sparkle something, I don't even know the names of the parallels, let alone what they're worth.
You know what we need to do? We gotta. This is a call out to anybody out there who listens or watches. If you are a Panini expert, or you feel that you're a Panini expert, and you know all the different types of parallels and how to identify them and what their actual names are, check our websites. Make sure we have them listed. I mean, I don't think you even list the parallels for your website.
No, I don't. Check WTC.
Check WTC. See if we have them listed correctly. For me personally too, like I have a hell of a time trying to, keep a spreadsheet of Dexter Loomis stuff and what I have or don't have. I'm like, I don't even know. Like I can't even. Chuckster brought this up about for Select. It'd be nice to have a sample image of cards to show the difference in like what they look like as far as like.
Yeah, because when Chuck opened his blasters, he didn't know what he had.
He doesn't have no clue what he had.
He had the Brock Elephant, but didn't know it was a Brock Elephant.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
it'd be helpful to have
No,
that.
that's why I thought that you might get together with either Ryan or Gelman or Flex or somebody or Mike, the
Sure.
cleaner, one of those guys that sort of is up on the modern product and maybe go through all these parallels and dissect it further. I don't know if that would be of benefit to people because
I think it'd be very helpful for people. There's a lot of people out there who are, card collectors who don't know about that. I'm one of them. I'm not hiding that. I gotta pretend like I know. I don't have a clue on
the game changes every release. Now all of a sudden you got parallels within your parallels, and pretty soon there's going to be parallels within your parallels within your parallels. So
it's like a visual version of Inception.
yeah, as we're speaking, Panini is printing something. I promise you that. Panini
Yeah,
is
of
printing a
course.
wrestling card every hour of the day now because they know that one day that money train's going to stop, and they want to ride it till the very last station.
Hey, according to some people, I've been writing it since 1991
Yeah, that's true.
with the same damn set.
Yeah.
All right, man. I got nothing else on this one.
No, nice seeing you. Have a great month.
Let everybody know where they can find you if they don't know already. If you don't know, shame on you.
Yeah, the Wrestling Card Price Guide. It's www.wrestlingcards.ca or card_guide
Guide.
On Twitter.
Get to know
Guide?
your
Yeah.
social media handle, sir.
Yeah.
Everything for us for WrestlingTradingCards.com can be found at WrestlingTradingCards.com. All the information you ever need about wrestling cards is there. Every social media link is on the bottom of every single page. We hope that you find some kind of value in these episodes. Like, share, subscribe.
I think that if
all
they're
free,
still
man.
listening, this late into the video, they know who we are, right?
They should, or maybe
I
it's
think so.
for the first time. You'd be surprised. There's like every once in a while I get a subscriber comes on, not many, but they come on and they're like, hey, just I stumbled across your channels like that. I didn't know there was a whole channel devoted to this kind of thing. So, yeah,
No, I mean though, people that watch this show.
Sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's tons of people out there. Like even yesterday when I published the sale of the Cosmos.
Yep.
I had a ton of responses and a bunch of new people.
Oh, I've seen your followers has jumped tremendously over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, that's from that one we had good hits on when I posted that, and these are wrestling people, that I'd never heard of. But yeah, people that watch our show, they know who we are. But just in case, the Wrestling Card Price Guide, WrestlingTradingCards.com, two best wrestling card websites out there, bar none. And they're free, and they're for you to use and to enjoy.
That's a good way to go ahead and leave this episode, guys.
That's it. See you guys.
We're out.